All right. All right. So, hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our webinars for busy lawyers. I know you usually get to have Susan here with you. Today you have me. I'm Heidi Alexander. I work with Susan. Susan is unfortunately on vacation. Not so unfortunate for her, but unfortunate for us. But she'll be back soon. No worries. So as some of you may know, we do these monthly webinars, and they're really designed to give you practical information in about a 20 to 30 minute period so that you can implement it immediately in your practice. We know you're busy, and fortunately, today we have a topic that's very conducive to this this whole idea that we've had, which is 20 to 30 minutes is sort of bite-sized information. It's information that doesn't take too much time out of your day. And today we've got Dan Siegel, who is going to be talking about how to do 90 minutes of legal work in 60 minutes, which I am extremely excited to find out how we can do that. We all need to figure out how to do more of that. And so Dan is a practicing attorney, and he's also a tech consultant. His law practice focuses on trial and appellate court writing, ethics, and professional guidance for attorneys and worker compensation matters. He also owns Integrated Technology Services, and with that company, he works with attorneys and their staff to analyze their workflow and to implement and use technology more efficiently while avoiding the technical jargon that can be a barrier to understanding and adopting the technology. Dan is highly involved with the American Bar Association and other local bar associations, and he's also the author of numerous publications on tech products, productivity, and ethics, some of which we actually have in the LOMAP lending library. So if you take a look online at our lending library, you're welcome to check out any of those books, no cost. We'll send them out to you and you can send them back. Before I turn it over to Dan, I just want to let you know that we will have time at the end to answer your questions. So if you could put any questions that you have in the chat box, I'll then relay those questions to Dan at the very end. So with that, Dan, I know we only have 20 to 30 minutes, so we all want to hear what you have to say and how we're going to do 90 minutes of legal work in 60 minutes. So I'm going to hand it right over to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. The genesis of this program is the fact that for years, especially when I went out on my own and hired no one and was truly a solo, people wondered how I got things done so quickly, and it's because of the techniques and information I'm going to show you. This is actually the first time I've ever done this program in half an hour, so you're going to hear more of the practical end than see it, because of those limitations, but hopefully you'll get the idea and want to hear more at some other time. As you heard, I am a practicing attorney and I am a technology consultant. These are techniques that we use in our office all the time and with clients so that we actually do get a lot more done in a lot less time, because you didn't go to law school to sort of waste time with technology. This is about how to use technology more efficiently. As Heidi mentioned, I've authored a number of books over the years. This program is actually the reason we came out with the book, Allison Shields and I, How to Do More in Less Time. And my newest book is the book, The Ultimate Guide to Adobe Acrobat, which is on your screen, also another ABA publication. But what we hear all the time is that people feel like they're overwhelmed by their computer, that it's controlling their lives, not the other way around. But the computer is really your staff. It's the first tool that you use every day and the tool you spend the most time with. So people feel overwhelmed by their computer, and there are some logical reasons. And if we were in a room when I'm doing this program, I'd ask, how many of you have ever taken a course in Microsoft Word or in Microsoft Excel or Outlook or Adobe Acrobat. And often I get a few hands here and there, but I don't see most people doing it. Yet, what did you take courses in law school or in high school or whatever? In the things you need to know to succeed. And these are 4 products that most lawyers use either every day or frequently in their practice. Yet, how many times have you taken a class in it? On the other hand, does your office expect you to be competent in using Word? Does it expect you to be competent in using Excel? Does it expect you to be competent in using Outlook? And does it expect you to be competent in using Acrobat? And the answer is either yes, or they don't care how you get your work done, but you want to be competent because when you use these products more efficiently, you save time. My sons graduated from our local public high school and were expected to be competent in Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Yet they never had a class in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. So presumably they became competent and could graduate by osmosis because they certainly needed classes in math and everything else. And how does your office, or how do you expect to become competent? And for most people, it's by osmosis. They get a product and they sort of use it. But the problem is, are they really using it the right way? I don't know that I've ever visited anyone who uses Microsoft Outlook and saw that they are sort of maximizing their efficiency with these products. The other part of this is how much paper is on your desk? How much paper is in your office? Ignoring the amount of dust and allergies it's going to cause you, paper is a plague. It is a problem for attorneys. If you look at my desk in my office, you'll see some paper because you can't practice or really do almost anything without paper. But you won't see files. There are no file folders. There are no piles of paper anywhere in my office. We have staff who've come here and do not even know where our filing cabinet is because we never really go to it. It just is where we store fee agreements and some medical authorizations and those things. Does your desk look like this? I work with attorneys whose desks look like this, and they say they can find things. I have no idea how. This makes me ill just thinking about it, and we have discussions in our office every few days where we make sure that there's nothing on anyone's desk that could slip through the cracks any which way. And that desks may not look exactly like this, but they look more like this than they do like that. Not something you want. So the question is, how do you get there? And nowadays, we all use computers. We're not going back to the days when I graduated law school. I'm older than people think, and we used electric typewriters and onion skin and carbon paper. Does your desktop look like this? Which, if it does, how do you find anything? Or does it look like this desktop? This is an actual computer desktop of one of my clients. I was installing software remotely a few years ago, and the client said, save the install file to my desktop, and I did, not knowing what her desktop looked like, and then opened up her desktop, and that's what I found. How you could ever locate any document or file on that desktop, I don't know. When you look at my desktop, and this is sort of what it looks like, it's organized. And if you would look closely at it, you'd see that I have folders that link to programs I'm doing, that link to the software I'm using, and that link to areas on my network. So right now we're involved in a very large case with lots of parties, lots of documents, and the information's on my server. But I have a shortcut to the folder on the server where all the information is, so I don't have to navigate a few clicks at a time. And why? Because extra clicks are extra time. And what do I mean? This could be clicks on your computer, but we're going to talk about what the average lawyer does for a minute. How long does it take you? Your client calls and they want to ask you a question to get that file. 2 minutes? think about it, we all underestimate time, and by the time you walk over, leave your office, go to the filing cabinet, go to your paralegal's desk, whatever, and find a file, go get it, and come back. 2 minutes is a conservative estimate. Then you have to look through the file. You got to first pull out the information. Maybe it's in piles, or maybe it's clipped, and then you've got to find the correspondence section or whatever part of it you need, unclip it, and find the document, whatever it is you're looking for. That could be another minute and a half. And so we have a minute to a minute and a half to find it. So that means that you're spending about 3.5 minutes to get a file. If you don't think this is a fair estimate, time yourself the next time you go to get a file, and you'll see that that's the case, because often you'll stop and talk to someone, et cetera, and all of that is time that is not what you're doing. And how many times a day do you do this? 10 times a day? We probably get files a lot more than that. Most of us need to go and get things many times a day. That means you're spending 35 minutes a day just getting a file and getting the information. 175 minutes a week, 8,750 minutes a year, assuming you're working 5 days. If you're in a firm where you're working 6, you can do the math. That means you're spending 145 hours every year just getting your files. That's 3.5, 4 days a year finding files, and I suggest that's a conservative estimate. That means that if your billable time is $150 per hour, you're just devoted $22,000 of billable time to finding files, and that's a conservative estimate. Why? Because you waste time. And when I say waste time, I mean you're not as productive as you could be when you handle paper. Paper is not your friend. Yes, there are times you're going to need to print things and look at documents, and we all do it. We do it in our office, but we don't do it when we don't need to. Part of the reason is that we have everything electronically, and all of us in our office, every person in the office has at a minimum a 27-inch wide monitor, so it's really easy to see whatever is on the screen, and if we need to print something, we do. But we're a 2-attorney firm with a paralegal and a law clerk, and we average using 4 reams of paper per month. So you can see our paper budget is about $100 a year. You're not as productive when you get up from your desk to do things that you don't want or need to do, getting a file. If your files are electronic and all the information is on your computer, that time goes away, so you devote it to the client. What I said before is using your computer without shortcuts. You can easily, by right-clicking on any folder anywhere in your network, you'll see that it gives you an option to create a shortcut, and when you look at that option, it's to your desktop. So we put shortcuts on our desktop every time for the folders we need. We have a client folder for certain client information that's not in case management. There's a shortcut. We have a law office document folder for certain forms and things. That's a shortcut to our desktop. Whatever you need, you put a shortcut there so you don't have to go to my computer and look and find that information. In addition, if you don't automate your tasks, which means use case management products, use Word's ability to do auto text, things like that, it takes longer. So that when I'm typing an answer that requires, as we do in Pennsylvania, denied after reasonable investigation, the plaintiff has, no information, et cetera, that's all auto text through Word, and saving it takes a couple seconds, but then I never have to type it again. So these are the start of the ways to complete 90 minutes of work in an hour, and you get better results because you're not wasting time. You find your information quickly and easily. We only get 24 hours a day. And as a result, you often say that you don't have enough time. And most of the time it's you don't have enough of the productive time. I get into my office early in the morning, but I'm home for dinner every night because I don't want to be here at night. And we make sure we use the technology. In our book I mentioned, we talk about your biggest time wasters. One is meetings and conference calls. Meetings are time leaders because when you have a lot of meetings, you talk about things other than what the meeting topic is. So meetings have to be lean and efficient with agendas. Conference calls, the same way. Coworker distractions, when you get up and then you see your coworker and you start talking about whatever, the Super Bowl when the Eagles beat the Patriots, which I'm sure some of you remember, we sure do down here. A lot of conversation about that, but it's not productive time for any of us in terms of billable time. Email. Email is a time suck. So do you schedule times to review email and turn it off, or do not use it during certain hours? I come into my office in the morning and go through all of my email, and my goal is always to make sure I can see all of my email in one window or one scene so that I don't have to worry about things that I'm missing. But I do it all at once, and then I have segments of time during the day when I will look at it, because if you just go to it back and forth, it will control your life. And then what we call ineffective multitasking, because there really is no such thing as multitasking. You're switch tasking. You're switching from one thing to another. And when you do, you get distracted. You forget where you are. And if you're on a phone call and you've been there, we all have, where you can tell that the other person really isn't listening to you. And if it's a client or someone important and they sense that you're not listening to them or paying attention, that's something that's a very big negative. So you want to avoid that. Disorganized workspaces. You should, if you keep information on your desk, I have one sort of in a bin, wooden, paper bin, and that's for information that is never client information. It might be articles I'm interested in writing or reading. We have a separate spot for client information. Personal communications, they suck your time. Web surfing, we all do it, but it can be an enormous coffee break, enormous time waste. And cigarette and coffee breaks, they take our time. So you develop good habits. And when we talk about making goals and identifying priorities, we talk about things. One of the things I adopted that Allison Shields recommended was the 3-item a day list. And I do it every day. It is the 3 items every day that you must get done to know that you have been productive. I make that list every day, and I try never to leave the office without completing those 3 items, because they're my priorities for the day. So today it was to write a letter to an opposing counsel in a case of ours that was really important, and to do some other things. But they were written down on a sheet of paper. They're my goals. They're my priorities. Same as you want the items that are going to bring the highest return. You could also have, as we do at times, a do not do list. Things you are not going to do now or that need to be delegated because there's sometimes the items just can't be done today or tomorrow. Give up multitasking. As I said, focus on your email at certain times of the day. Let you control it, not it control you. Interruptions. In our office, we have a thing called do not disturb time. What does that mean? If anyone sees on my desk, and we're in an old house, so we all have, I'm essentially in the living room, and when the door is closed, if anyone sees a yellow post-it on my door, just blank, they know it's do not disturb time. Leave Dan alone unless it's something extremely urgent, and I'm not going to take calls. I'll put DND on my phone. Try to limit interruptions. We talked about the don't do list. Eliminate the clutter. Clean up your desk. And delegate. That's why you have staff. Let the person who is the lowest do the lowest items so that you are doing the highest reward items. Have systems, whether it's case management or document management, or if you're not going to use it, have a system for how you store your information. Have effective meetings. use case management or matter management software. I've been using it since 1991 and wouldn't know what to do without it. It tells me everything that's happening in my life. I can see what's happening in my associate's life. We can see everything that is going on. We share our information, and we don't have to talk to each other just for the sake of, hey, what's going on in the Jones case? And use your technology, which is where I'm going next. You can do this. Nothing I'm talking about requires computer or technical skill. It may mean that maybe you need to take a course or bring in someone to teach you how to use Adobe Acrobat or Microsoft Outlook, because if you haven't been taught, you may not know. I see documents all the time that come in from people who use Microsoft Word out of the box and don't even know how to customize the spacing of paragraphs. What do I mean? Most of us are using single or double spacing and maybe with an indent at the start of a line. But the default in Microsoft Word is 1.15 line spacing and 1.0 points between paragraphs. Why some geek who works for Microsoft decided that that's the way to set up your paragraphs, I don't know. But if you're in any of the Office products, you will see that there is on the ribbon a little down arrow on the right corner of each section of those boxes. And this is one of the things we'd show you if we had 60 or 90 minutes. And you click on that, and it shows you all the different settings. And then at the bottom there is a box set as default. Well, that's what you want to do. Once you decide that you want double space with 0 points in between the paragraphs, the traditional way most documents are prepared, you click default, and it'll ask you when you say yes, do this for all my documents. Or what font do you want? You don't really want the default Calibri 11. You may want Times Roman or Garamond or something else or Arial, but you can set that with that little arrow. Don't let Microsoft dictate how your documents look. What do? We scan absolutely everything that is business related that comes into the office first. It goes to my paralegal who scans it. We don't save documents other than originals in paper form. A lot of firms that we deal with save them till the case is over. But either way, you have no archiving expense, and you can find any document. Client could call you 10 years from now, and you'd still be able to find a copy of their will. Email where possible, not snail mail, even though sometimes snail mail is recommended. Use electronic faxes. If you're going to fax, there's no reason to have a paper fax machine to have to leaf through that stuff. Send it electronically. Never print an email. If you need to save emails, use Adobe Acrobat. It automatically has a feature that allows you to save individual or email boxes. It timestamps the information with when you received it, and it includes the attachments in their native form. It's part of buying Acrobat, standard or professional. Many people don't know it's there. Don't use paper, use technology, use the internet. So how do we do this? We have a file naming protocol. Every document in our office is named in a specific way, no exceptions. How do you do that? We do letter to client, and then we always put in the date of the letter. Why? Because then we can find it without doing searching, looking for the date stamp. And it is always 4-digit year, -2-digit month, -2-digit day. Why? All the letters to client will always sort in date order. Either use relationship or document management software or case management software. Yes, you're going to have an initial expense to put those in, but they will save you unbelievable amounts of time. Our case management software here lets us see so much information, and to move files and get information. We do a large volume of appellate work, and we are able to do that without ever seeing a printed document. We share it with each other. We have different versions. It's simple, but it has to be set up. And save things in a logical directory folder. If you're not going to use those products, make sure you have for each client the folders you need: correspondence, memos, medical records, whatever it is. When you're saving your documents electronically, OCR them, the most technical word you're going to hear from me today, which simply means you use optical character recognition, which is recognized text function in Adobe Acrobat or similar products, so you can open up any document and search them. Or with Acrobat, you can create an index. We just received 81,000 documents in a case, 400,000 pages. We have an index. We can find every instance of any word in about a split second just through that index. And of course, since you're using technology, backup. Ethically, the best practice is to back up on-site and off-site. We have an on-site backup that backs up every 15 minutes, off-site continuously. I'm in a real old house. My landlord's cheap. He only has 100 amp electric service. The building burns down. All I do is either, if my backup on site is okay, I can restore. If not, my backup service sends me a hard drive with it. And shred so that you are securely destroying any information that goes out that would go to the trash that has confidential or sensitive information. We also tell you, put shortcuts on the desktop. That's what I talked about. And if you don't know this, when you right-click on your desktop, you are able to have properties. It's a display properties window. When you right-click, then just put in the search bar themes. When you get that, you'll see a spot that says desktop icons, and that'll allow you to put on your desktop the recycle bin, your computer, control panel, your network, and your documents, so that those shortcuts are there for you since we use them. Customize the programs you use and the toolbars. The software out of the box is designed by geeks who don't use it the way you do. When you customize them, which may be adding items to a toolbar, the quick access toolbar in all of the Office products allows you to save on there the features you use, like print or spell check. In many of the Office products, they're there. So if you go to the top, you'll see this little toolbar, and when you right-click, you'll see Customize Quick Access. See all it can do. Rename directories. What do I mean? When you're searching through files, and if you happen to have a folder called Wills, that's going to come up at the end of your folder list. But if you put an underscore before it, so underscore Wills, the underscore shows up first in Windows. There's no reason when you want to send a document after you've saved it or hit the save button to go back and open up Outlook and then send it. All you have to do is almost every program has a file send button and will automatically allow you to take whatever that file is and make it an attachment in your default email program. Archive email. Don't save it forever, because if you do, you're going to potentially have Outlook explode on you. And I literally mean explode. So that if you need to save email and you don't have case or document management, use Acrobat. Use the links and favorites toolbar. My favorites toolbar is organized into Pennsylvania and New Jersey courts and medical items. I have 4,500 websites. Why? So I never have to remember what the web address is. I practice in Philadelphia. The e-filing website is gibberish. These are the types of things you don't want to do. You use the Explore button in looking at files. Outlook has what's called the reading pane. If you use the reading pane, you don't have to open all of your files, all of your email. You can just scroll up and down with an arrow and see the email, see the attachments. So if you're not using it, it should be on your ribbon bar, reading pane. Set it to reading pane right, and suddenly you will be amazed at how much quicker you go through files. When you're looking at lists of files, list them. Don't use thumbnails. And you can customize your start menu. Any item you use a lot, when you're in the start menu, right-click on it, and you'll see you can pin it to the start menu or pin it to that little taskbar. We do that all the time so that the items we use are there. Use Adobe Acrobat. As I said, organize your searches. If you didn't know, you don't have to ever type www.xyz.com and enter. All you have to do is, if you know the website is XYZ, Amazon, Walmart, whatever, all you have to do is type that name, hit Control Enter, and it will put in the www, the .com, and the go, so that you save typing 8 key characters and the enter every time. Well, 8 characters, you do that 10 times a day, it might save you a couple of seconds, but then you're talking 20 or 30 seconds a day. In a week, you're talking a couple of minutes. And in a year, you're talking an hour and a half of time saved just because you're not typing www.com. That's what we're talking about when doing 90 minutes of work in 60. And get training. Yes, you didn't go to law school to learn to use Microsoft Word, and they didn't teach you, but you did get training in how to use a lot of these products, how to practice as a lawyer. And these tools are your staff. They're the people. It's the technology people that work for you, even though you don't have to give them a salary. Training can help. An hour or two of learning how to use Microsoft Office will save you immensely in the future. So get training in Word, get training in Excel if you use it. Learn how to use Outlook. It's a far more versatile product than most people think. Most people look at how my Outlook is customized. All of my appointments are color-coded. That's me. I like to use colors, but I can tell just by looking when I have to travel, when I'm teaching a CLE, anything, just by looking. Same with Adobe Acrobat. Get the training in any software or equipment you use so that you actually learn how to use it and you're not just sort of guessing. Your clients sure wouldn't want you practicing law by guessing, having never taken a course or never taken a CLE. And you sure wouldn't want to go to a doctor who hasn't had any updated medical training and doesn't do those MRIs because they weren't around when she was in law school. So those are the things you need to do. Your computer is another member of your staff. And if you use it, you will benefit greatly and sleep better. Thank you. Heidi?
All right. Well, thank you, Dan. That was excellent. Lots of tips jam-packed in about 30 minutes. There's a lot of takeaways from there. One of the things, Dan, that I read in your book that I thought was particularly helpful and is something that I have now stolen from you and use in my own presentations with some attribution, of course. But that was your 15-minute cleanup tip. That came from you, right? 15-minute cleanup?
I'm not sure that's us.
In your book? I'm pretty sure it came from your book. Yeah. I am pretty sure, unless I just came up from this. Yeah. If it wasn't from your book, it was an idea that popped in my head that based on my reading of your book. But it's this idea that you take, every Friday, the last 15 minutes of the day, and you actually calendar the time to clean up your office. And that might mean dumping your junk mail, going through your desktop so it doesn't look like the desktop that you showed us, but actually calendaring that time to do that 15-minute cleanup. And I think that's such a great tip, and it's something that every person on this webinar can implement immediately. I mean, I know you had a ton of them, but I just like to call that one out because it's such a great tip, so that you can come into the office, whether it's Monday morning or whether it's Saturday morning, and you can actually focus on what you need to be doing as opposed to all that clutter, all that stuff around you.
Right.
So I appreciate that tip, whether it came from your book or elsewhere, but I did think it came from you.
Well, what we talk about is schedule time.
Yeah.
So that when I have to write a brief, or I have to do something that requires a lot of focus, I know I'm going to do it on Monday, but saying I'm going to do it on Monday means that I could have 12 other things come up that aren't as important. So what we do is we actually calendar it, that on Monday at 9 to 9 to 10, write the brief, or whatever the time is. Why? Then I set it aside just like it's a client appointment. So you schedule those things all the time. I do stuff I chair the ABA's law practice CLE board, and it's a lot of time, but I do it all on Fridays from 2 to 3. It's set up as a weekly appointment so that I know every week I'm going to be doing it at that time, not haphazardly during other times. And a lot of times it's, yeah, you do it late in the week. We actually close our office at 4 on Friday because we think people get fried by then. But that's the time to schedule what you call your 15-minute cleanup. That's when we try to schedule or to do those things that require the least brain power or that type of thing. So 3 to 4 on Friday, we're typically around here doing that type of thing.
Right, right. I agree. And you know what I usually recommend as well is, you know, not using that time where you actually have that brain power to check your email. You know, I see a lot of people who, the first thing you do when you get into your office in the morning is start checking your email and start to go through that processing, you know, dumping the emails and doing what you need to do, processing your emails, where what you should be doing is actually focusing on something substantive as opposed to using your brain power for, you know, something that's not so substantive. We do have a couple of questions, Dan. Clearly Susan loved your presentation because she's got a few questions for you, and then we have some other questions from the participants as well. So let me throw a couple of these at you. So first, how do you decide what to delegate and what to do yourself? Do you have some sort of process for delegating to others?
Yeah, we try to figure out, by each staff person, either whose skill set or whose billing rate is sort of, I'll flip it the other way. I do the highest level of the work. Even though it would be, I have to schedule things on the calendar or put in diary dates. I never do that work. That is done by my paralegal. Why? Because that is not the best use of my time. So we look at people based on their skill set, what they bill at, and we sort of look at the pyramid of functions. So it is, unless it's a one-off thing, you'll never see me scheduling, and I know how to do it, and I can do it all, but it's not the best use of my time. So when deadlines come in from courts and things, they automatically go to her. Plus, when you assign those tasks to one person, there is one person responsible for that, and you don't get the problem that a lot of offices have where you have 2 or 3 people doing it haphazardly, but then there's no one accountable when there is the inevitable item that did not get diaried or did not get done.
Okay, that makes sense. Another question here is, you mentioned your do not do list. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there are different things that you may have to do at certain, you have to, you have some item that has to be done, but it's not due till next week, or it's a relatively low-level task that can be done on a Friday afternoon. Well, we will, sometimes you write the list down, sometimes it's a mental list. Those are the things that you're not going to do when you need to be sort of most productive or on a day when you must focus. So you move those items to other times. I literally, with different obligations I have, will not do certain of those items during my normal day, but will schedule time, like I say, for the ABA board. For other things that I'm involved in, I'll say I'm not going to do any XYZ client things today or whatever. I'll do them Friday or whatever the item is, because they're not as important, and you've got to always do, the things that have to get done first. Some things just can wait or belong to some, or you need to delegate.
Right. Okay, great. So a couple of additional questions here. I loved your tip on technology competency and the importance of that. So following up on that, we have a question as to where do you get that training? What are some good sources for training on Word, Outlook, Excel, etc.? Do you have any good resources? And then I can add to that.
Well, there's different companies, there's vendors who do it. I mean, we do that through our consulting firm. We actually do that type of work. But there are trainers. There's someone in the Philadelphia area who is not a lawyer, but who trains in all of the office products. And you can find those people. Sometimes there are online programs as well. So you do have to explore a little. Sometimes the online things are very good. A lot of times you want someone who may understand law offices better, and it may be a software consultant or workflow consultant. You do have to look a little, but there are people who have those competencies. There are also CLEs that are available, typically webinars for those, where you will get people who will show you, how to do things. Ben sure does a lot of them for the ABA, and anytime he talks on Microsoft Office, you will learn a ton. He's exceptional. So there are outlets for doing it, but certain consultants and companies like that will do that as well. So I'd say you look for a consultant who knows how to do it and sort of can speak your language, or go to the CLEs. I'm sure your entity probably has recordings of them or access to them, as do lots of other bar associations and CLE entities.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what you want to ask yourself too is whether you want that individualized training where you have a consultant come in and they understand your office. Again, like you said, they can speak your language. And then the alternative is to do something online, go to a CLE. And one, we actually do have for Massachusetts attorneys and non-Massachusetts attorneys, but many Massachusetts attorneys know of MCLE, Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education. We have actually been helping out with a series of technology programs, and those are actually now on demand. And there's one on Outlook, Word, Adobe Acrobat, and Excel. And they're 2-hour programs, and we'll be redoing some in the next year. But if you search their catalog, you should be able to find those and get those on demand. A couple of other questions here. So we have somewhat of a loaded question, and you didn't really touch on this too much, so I wouldn't say go too much into detail on this, but we have a question as to what type of case management software do you recommend for a small 4-person firm? And sometimes it's an individualized response. And I will say to the person asking this, this is part of what we consult on here. So we're happy to talk to you offline and help you make an individualized determination. But Dan, do you have some comments on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I we do work with case management products as well. But I'll do a couple of quick caveats. One is you need to research for yourself. And if anyone emails me, I wrote an article for the American Trial Lawyers quite a few years ago that's the things to consider, not by product name. And I'm happy to share that with anyone. The other is don't buy what your friends buy simply because they have something. Make certain that a product works for you. There are lots of very good products. There's also a lot of products that have a reputation because your friend has it that aren't really the best for what a lot of lawyers need. In our office, we do use a product called Legal Files, which is used in a lot of businesses, or firms, small and large. But there's a lot of different products. There's cloud-based products, depending on the nature of your practice. There's server-based products. There's a lot to think about there. Don't make a rash decision. And the other thing is, no matter what you buy, if you're buying case management software, you must invest in customization for your practice area or areas and training. Any of these products are not worth buying if you are not going to invest in the training and the customization. And I don't care which product it is, they all need it, and it's essential.
Yeah, that's good thinking. And again, I mean, there's lots of people out there that can, can help you think about these things. Again, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of products. We're available here. We're a free service, so feel free to get in touch with us if you want to talk more about that. We do have a couple other questions here, and one is a little bit more technical, and this question is about how you use Acrobat to manage emails. Is there an easy way to archive email to clients' electronic folders?
To archive email, and I can try to show you this. I don't think the meeting control is going to let me. I don't know if I'm set to this because I shared.
You want to stop you can stop your screen share and
yeah, let me try something here. Yeah, I'm going to share Outlook, and I think it'll show it here. Give it a second. 1 second. If Outlook is, I don't know if people could see Outlook on my computer right now. Okay. Okay, Outlook has a feature if you purchase Adobe Acrobat Standard or Professional that allows you to automatically save email through the Adobe ribbon. And you can save selected messages or folders, including attachments. And we cover that. It's in our book on Acrobat that my paralegal and I wrote. I've done just for people, there are 4 different webinars through the Pennsylvania Bar Institute. But if I take this email right here that you see has multiple attachments, and these are demo files, I use this all the time. All I have to do is say, save this. I'm going to create a new folder file for this called 4 demos, and it will save and convert this email to a PDF, and it will include with it, and I'll probably then have to share the window with you. It will include all of the attachments. It will be time-stamped with the time when I received it, which was actually 2015. And so now if we share Acrobat, here we go, you will see, and for some reason my toolbar taskbar is not moving, but here is the email. And when I say view, let's see, show and hide, navigation panes, attachments, here are all of the attachments in their native form preserved. And then you can actually go back into Acrobat, save an entire folder, and so you can do that by client, and you can do that, and it'll never save the same one twice. It knows that. And all of your attachments here are in their native format just as they were. So here's the original Word. Here's the sort of fun trivia part. I think most people know what that picture is. That's on the screen, the copper tone girl. What they don't know is that this picture here is my sister, who was the original model for the copper tone girl in the early 50s. And so I use that as a little bit of trivia.
So do you know if that works with Outlook on Mac?
I believe it does. It's slightly different, but there is an Acrobat plugin. I believe it does.
Okay.
I'm not.
I think it does too, but it's not going to work with the Mac mail program unless you have another.
No, but what you will get is that no matter what you have, when you are in any program, and I will show you even from, I'll switch back to the PowerPoint and show you that in every program that you use, Acrobat puts in and creates a printer, the Adobe printer. So here is this, and if you go to print, one of your printers is always a PDF printer. So there's my Dell printer, but there's Adobe PDF. So even if you don't get the ribbon plugin, you always have the ability to create a PDF through the Adobe printer.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, let's see if I'm missing any questions here. So just some feedback here. People are saying it was very, very helpful, and someone just booked an Adobe class. So that's great. This was a great addition, Dan. That was a great tip. And my understanding too is that when you create those PDFs from a folder, it's actually going to create a table of contents. So it's an entire digest where you can click on a link and it'll bring you to that email, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it creates an Adobe portfolio that they're called,
yep.
Which is what you see here. So right. That if there were 10 email, it would list all 10 email here and you would see them. I don't know, let me just see. No, it's not in my recent, here, this one might have it. So let's see from here's from a program I did the other day. And you can see I saved all of the emails that were in that same folder. And I can see all,
and you have to switch
all of those.
You, because we can't.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Aha, okay. So we're gonna go here, show you this. So I just opened up another email that saved all of the emails in that email box that I showed you. Mm-hmm. And you can see here are all of those emails from the subject, the date, how many attachments there are. So this document had 7 attachments, and I could simply view, show and hide attachments. And here are all of those attachments. Same thing. So you can save them all. They are all time-stamped the date they were received, not the date, because I just created this last week. And you actually can have more headings and things. So you can see, name from, who it was to, all of that information, and and it's removed from Outlook so that you can manage your email better.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. It's a great tool. All right, so I'm going to pivot to another question here, which is about using Dragon for dictation. And this person wants to know if you have any tips on using Dragon. It's a completely different topic, but if you have any tips.
Yeah, Dragon can be a really good tool. I reviewed one of the professional versions a couple of years ago in my Product Watch column for ABA's Law Practice magazine. It is a really good tool for attorneys who are not good typists. If you practice and train the software, it has an entire process of training it so it recognizes your voice, your inflection, your words, etc. If you do that, it can be a really good tool. I don't use it because I type extremely fast. So I don't need that. But for lawyers who don't type quickly or are sort of not comfortable with a keyboard, Dragon is a very good tool, provided you train it. If you don't train it, you're not going to be satisfied with the results. But, it's as I say, you're supposed to get training, yes. In that case, you also have to train the software.
Okay. Great tips. All right. So now we've gone from 30 minutes to an hour. So you were right. We weren't going to cover it all in 30 minutes. But these were some great questions. And as I mentioned in the chat box, if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Dan. His contact information is on the slides, which also will be posted when we put this up on our website. But here's his information, Dan at techlawyergy.com. I love that. And so we're going to wrap up here. So I just want to thank Dan for sharing your time and your advice with us. This was excellent. Again, we will provide a recording in our slides on our website, so masslawmap.org. So thank you all for tuning in. And mark your calendars for next month's webinar. We're going to have Matt Yaspin, who is a local attorney, and he's going to be talking about the logistics of taking electronic payments. and some of the ethical issues involved. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much again, Dan. We appreciate your time and your expertise. Thanks to everyone else.
Thank you.
Tuning in.